Hey guys, welcome to 6 Minutes for Tuesday, November 22nd. I'm Jason Fulmore, SE Wrestle, and happy Thanksgiving to all of you. I know we're still a couple days away. I know some of you are still out there competing both yesterday, today, and tomorrow. But, you know, it is Thanksgiving week, so we wanted to go ahead and wish you a happy Thanksgiving. Won't drop any more this week, or at least the beginning of the week before Thanksgiving. Might look for something at the end of this week as we begin to shift our focus towards this coming weekend and beyond. Anyway, very quickly, today I'm talking to Brant Parsons of KabraWrestling. He and I sat down and talked about 3A in Florida, the top 10 duels, and the top 10 in the IBT. Because we take a little bit of time to do so, I'm going to make this very brief. But before I jump to that, I want to go ahead and give a shout out to all of those wrestlers whose names were submitted by their coaches for Hammers of the Week. Congratulations for this past week work November 14th to the 20th. We've posted those all on the website and on social media. Congratulations on the hard work and being recognized. And yeah, we're just getting started. We've just started with Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina, and hope to ramp up with even more as the season goes along. Anyway, don't want to take too much time, so let's jump right into my conversation with Brant Parsons and his top 10 in 3A. All right, here with Brant Parsons. Today we are talking Florida 3A, and if you haven't had the opportunity to tune in to any of the others, make sure you take some time and tune in to our conversation as it relates to the girls 1A and 2A. Because we talk about everything. Because Brant knows it all in terms of Florida.
I don't know about that, but I would say if you want to get away from your family, because I know that the holidays are coming up, or maybe we're in the holidays now, get away from your family and watch those other videos.
Yeah, but you do. I mean, so I know you're going to be like, I don't know about that, but you spend a lot of time, and we both spend a lot of time in terms of looking at it and understanding it. It's tough. I mean, these are high school age kids. You know, these are programs that are going to change, and you don't know how things are going to change. But, you know, based upon past experience, past results, and different things like that, I think we can get a pretty good sense of what's going to happen. And then one of the things that I always love about what you do, and I try to do it myself, is trying to highlight like the teams that aren't necessarily number one or number two, the kids who aren't necessarily number one or number two, because wrestling is such a great sport, regardless of whether you're going to win a state title or you're not. So I appreciate that you rank, you know, kids from 1 to 20, you know, weekly. And, you know, the kids who are fighting for that number 17 spot and that number 16 spot and so on and so forth are working super hard to continue to get better and move their way up.
I'd say I get more emails from kids in the bottom 5 than I do from kids in the top worrying about where they're ranked or letting me know like results. Like someone's 18th, like, hey, you know, I beat the kid number 16, you know, you didn't get those results. And
is it harder? Kind of is it harder when you get down to 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, as opposed to 1 through 15, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. I mean, 1, 2, 3 usually is fairly simple. They usually face each other at some point. You have like the big tournaments, and most of them have settled, you know, face each other before. I look at everything, and when I say everything is after I do all the results from a week, I look at every single result for every single team, every single individual, how they did, and I try to find every result that I don't say that matters, but that would matter to my rankings.
Yeah,
because I never want to have, and it doesn't happen that often, which I'm proud of, is I don't want to have a kid ranked 18 that lost the weekend before to a kid that's not ranked that probably deserves to be ranked. And so I take as much time worrying about as you said, my bottom 5 as I do the top 5. The top 5 is what everybody looks at. You know, if someone's looking at my rankings and they're looking at each one and they're not looking for a specific kid, they're probably going to look at just the top couple guys and kind of scroll down. but I want the kid that looks at it, or the coach or the dad or the mom or the friends, and they're looking for a kid who's ranked 16th to make sure that it's right. And if that kid deserves to be there, I want him to be there. And that's, I take pride in that. I take pride on having the having complete rankings top to bottom, where I'm not just filling in names, where every kid that should be ranked is ranked. And I hate it when I miss one, but it's not too often. So
very cool. Well, so just so everybody knows, Brant sequesters himself in a cave, in about September, and he doesn't emerge like, Puxatawny Phil until after March, because he's producing previews and everything. Go ahead.
My preview that includes 400 capsules for the boys, over 300
Yeah, when
for the
did
girls.
that start?
I start making that in March. Like the week after I take off, it's spring break for my kids, or the second week after I take that off, and then I come back and I start building the capsules, and figuring out who's coming back, who's graduating, and have, like, by April I have at least an outline of each capsule built, and then I just continue updating that with sporadic information throughout the summer. If I find out a coach changed, if I find out someone has transferred, and in August when school starts, and coaches that are on here watching, you start getting emails from me, and I started taking in forms from coaches that were telling me who's coming back in late August, and I started my interviews with coaches in early September, and I've personally talked on the phone to over 100 coaches since September just for this preview.
Wow. All right, man. Well, we are talking 3A in this one. And 3A is so much fun, just because of really just super good teams. I mean, really, your top 10 teams, regardless of IBT or duals, they're good teams. I mean, they could go over to 2A and 1A and really be very, very competitive, even though they might be number 9 or number 10 or something like in 3A, because the depth in 3A is so good.
Some of these schools are huge.
Yeah. All right. So in the bottom 5 of your top 10, you've got 2 teams that are ranked in both the IBT and the duals. Harmony at number 9 in duals, number 8 in IBT. Doral Academy, who's number 6 in both the duals and the IBT. So they must have something that tells you that they're going to be competitive regardless of the of IBT or duals. What is it about those 2 teams?
Well, they've got good wrestlers and they're deep and they fill a lineup. And Harmony is one of those teams. And if you've watched the other videos, you've seen me spotlight teams like this. They've got so many kids in the room that while they have some holes heading into the season, they've got guys ready to fill. They have incoming freshmen that are good. They've got guys who've been locked behind, seniors from last year for the last season or 2, and just waiting to take their turn. So Harmony is a team that will fill 14 weights, that will be competitive at 14 weights. And I could see them getting better as it goes up. Doral Academy loaded 4 or 5 guys, top 5, and some other guys ranked. Maybe not quite the depth of some of the top 5 teams, but a program that just really keeps getting better and deeper, and
they go everywhere and compete against everyone.
They do, and I mean, and when you're down in the 305, that just happens. You just get better if you're wrestling the same kids every weekend in the summer even, and you're some of the best teams are down there, and we'll talk about them on the 3A end. But and it's just a program that just keeps developing. And they've got some state title contenders, and then they've got some depth in their lineup, and that's what makes them good at both.
All right. So these 3 teams are ranked in the bottom 5 of the top 10 in duals. DeLand at number 10, Miami Palmetto at number 8, and Fort Pierce Central at number 7. What is it about them? And you can just give me an example. You don't have to give me all 3. You don't have to talk about all 3, but what is it about them being ranked in duals and not being necessarily ranked in the top 10 in IBT?
For a team like DeLand, it's depth and guys that haven't maybe proven to be podium guys. but could be. They do have one state placer coming back and some state qualifiers. Miami Palmetto is actually, and that's my alma mater, and but I don't. There's no bias there, but they actually seem to have. I expected them to be higher on the IBT side. They've got a lot of highly ranked guys, but then they've got some depth in the lineup as well. Fort Pierce Central is the deepest of those teams that we've mentioned, and we're just it's just to see how much they improve. They graduated some guys, graduated a state champ, some other big hitters in the program. So it depends on how these guys come along. They've taken in a bunch of, they've got new kids coming in, they've got transfers coming in, and how they gel will depend on how they move up the IBT side. But they're already loaded, much like I said with Harmony. They've got guys at every weight. It's just a matter to see how they improve as the season progresses.
Right. Well, and we've gotten used to seeing Fort Pierce Central on the IBT side and
Yes.
pretty high on the IBT side.
Yes.
And they're not
had
there.
State champs. They've had state
Right.
placers, and those guys have moved on. But you've got kind of their legacy behind them, and they've got. I mean, I'm looking at it here. They have a state placer, 2 state qualifiers coming back. They've got 2 region qualifiers that made it to the blood round. They've got 2 state qualifiers that transferred in. So there are guys that are on the cusp, and if they continue to develop as they have, then you'll see the IBT side go up. But they, at least right now, are not an easy out on the dual side because they just don't have many easy weight classes to go through.
Yeah. On the IBT side, we've got Northport, number 10, Steinbrenner, number 9, and Haggerty, number 7. I mean, obviously that's driven by some absolute studs, some absolute hammers for each of those teams. The names that pop into my head are like a Dominic Joyce, a Reed Noble. I'm trying to think of,
Colin Bradshaw is the defending
Colin Bradshaw,
champ at Steinbrenner. Right. They've got a kid that moved in, Garrett Crusol, who's a nationally ranked lacrosse player who also wrestles. He's supposed to be really good, and I've learned that I need to trust when Steinbrenner tells me about a move-in. That's good because I was late to the Colin Bradshaw party. But yeah, you've got Steinbrenner has some big hitters. Depending on how deep the team ends up going would be on a dual side, but they certainly have guys that'll place. I should add Northport, out of all the teams we're talking about in 3A, is the only one I have not heard from their coach. So I'm only guessing on who they have coming back. But they do have a couple high-ranked guys coming back. And in Haggerty, same kind of thing. You have Camden Harrison, Hunter Tate. You've got a freshman who, Scotty wanted me to keep under the wings, but I just can't. Nicholas Blake. He's going to possibly be a state placer. He's been beating guys this summer. So again, Haggerty, a team that maybe not fully experienced, and a team that's used to bring in people in, and I could see them getting better on a dual side as the year goes on. But they do have some high placers in my projections that puts them in the IBT top 10.
So your number 4 and your number 5 team are the same, right? Both IBT and duals, and that is Palmetto Ridge and Cypress Bay. So
two different programs as far as what we're going to talk about. Cypress Bay, just loaded and with experience and top guys, depth. They really Alan Hell's really built kind of a nice little program there. They always make it to the region final and face South Dade, much to their bad luck.
Right.
In the duels, but they're always there on Friday night. They just keep getting better, and they've got some individuals that are getting better. Palmetto Ridge, defending state champ in the state duels, defeating South Dade last year, graduated a lot. They've got guys coming back, but they graduated, I think, 2 state champs. You still have Tyler Washburn coming back. You have a state finalist, Dimitri Zotopoulos is coming back. Roman Garcia is back. Austin Foy is back. But that's again, and it's kind of that caveat as you're heading into a season is we'll wait and see how the guys that fill in do. But they are coming from maybe a spot of question just because they've got some holes to fill.
Well, I mean, the truth is, you got Brennan Van Hoke and Carson Miller are both wrestling in D1 programs this year. So, I don't care how much you reload, to reload with 2 D1 level athletes the next kid up could be super good, but they're
Yeah.
not going to be as good as either one of those two are right now. It's just the way it is. So one of the things that before we get to the top three that I wanted to ask you is that you've got a lot of Region 4 teams in your duels, but only one ever emerges, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Cypress Bay will make it to the final. Miami Palmetto at number 8 is in the same district as Southwest Miami and South Dade. Teasing, I guess, getting ahead of ourselves, but Southwest Miami is the number 2 dual team in the state, and we likely won't see them. And
we haven't.
We never have. And there's I think I totaled out it's 29 miles separate South Dade and Southwest Miami as the crow flies, and
right
to Southwest Miami is 3-time state runner-up in Class 3A to South Dade, and they will not get past the region semifinal that Thursday before the state duels, most likely because they face South Dade. Now they could beat South Dade. South Dade, I think this year is even better than they've been, but that's been their limit has been making it to there to face South Dade again.
And I think
so
I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago. Southwest Miami actually beat them in a duel during the season, but then lost in.
And then 2 years ago also they beat them in the region,
right.
And then didn't win in the IBT. I mean, it could happen, but Southwest Miami and South Dade, my 1 and 2 in duels, will face each other in the district duel, and then conceivably in the region duel semifinal that takes place before anybody even gets to Kissimmee.
So we talked about Southwest Miami to a degree. So now let's talk about your number 3 team in duels, which is Osceola, your number 2 team in the IBT. Obviously, you've got Cooper Haas, you've got Anderson Heap, you've got Gunnar Holland, but this isn't just a top-heavy team. I mean, this is a team that's got good wrestlers all the way through the lineup. And are they? I mean, I know they're sitting 3 in duels and 2 in IBT. Can they catch your top team in both of those in South Dade?
It's a pretty heavy ask. You do have 3 state champs back. You have Cooper going for a 4-time, be the second in Osceola history to win 4 state titles at Osceola. Of course, Fox Baldwin also won one at Lake Highland Prep. You've got Gunnar Holland, who only just seems to win state titles. He was 46-10 last year. He won the state championship.
I know.
And then you have Anderson Heap, who won a state title last year. So you have 3 state champs coming back. You've got some depth. You've got some big guys coming back. I think one of the key things, and I talked about this a little bit on the girls' side, is there was a concern with continuity with longtime head coach Jim Bird having semi-retired and moved to the Panhandle and stepped down as Osceola's AD and wrestling coach. I mean, he's built that program.
He was coaching at Osceola when I was coaching at Gateway, and that was 25 years ago. So
when I started covering wrestling in 2004, I think it was even the guy that took over, Rick Tribbett, turned to me and said, because Oviedo was the team I was covering at the time, he goes, "You're going to want to keep an eye on Osceola. Jim Bird's down there and he's doing good things." And then like 3 years later, they were, starting to compete for state titles. There was a concern when he left on continuity. Rick Tribbett, Jim Bird's best friend, one of his closest friends in wrestling in 30 years. They coached together for a decade, took over as AD, moved over from Celebration, took over at Osceola, spent a lot of time. I know this because I've talked to him multiple times, a lot of time trying to find the right person for the job, and decided it was too important to leave in the wrong hands. So he's coaching it, and he's coached a lot of these kids back when they were kids, and they're not kids now. They're juniors and seniors in high school. But he felt his knowledge of them and their familiarity with them would kind of cushion the blow of Coach Bird leaving, and I believe that it has. And you're seeing a team, like I said, that's deeper than maybe people would realize, because you think, oh, Osceola, they've got the 3 state champs, but they're going to have some other guys that are going to be on the podium. They get to wrestle at home, for the state tournament.
Sleep in your own bed.
Sleep in your own bed. Be around the things which is, don't ever question, how much that brings. And I think just heading into the year, they may have a few less question marks than Southwest Miami and Palmetto Ridge as far as an IBT team. And that gives them maybe the slight edge there to have them number 2 heading into the year. Because if they have 3 state champs, you're looking at a whole bunch of points just from those 3 guys.
Yeah, so let me count down the top 10 in duels. 10 is
Sure.
DeLand, 9 is Harmony, 8 is Miami Palmetto, 7 is Fort Pierce Central, 6 is Doral Academy, 5 is Cypress Bay, 4 is Palmetto Ridge, 3 is Kissimmee Osceola, 2 is Southwest Miami, and your number 1 team, who might have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder after they didn't win it last year, is South Dade. And have you talked to Coach Balmaceda, and are they that hungry because they didn't?
I don't know if you saw it. My quote that I posted from Vic was from our talk was that the team had unfinished business to take care of. And, by the end of that day, Blaine Eisen had contacted me from Palmetto Ridge. He said, "Hey, can I do my quote now?" And I said, "Well, we haven't talked yet." He goes, "I want to put my quote that we have some unfinished business that we want to take care of." Real friendly rival. He assured me it was friendly, and both sides had a good laugh at it. But South Day doesn't like to lose at anything.
No, they don't.
And they will admit that they got beat by Palmetto Ridge at the state duels last year, and they tried to work things around in the lineup and just couldn't get it done. And Palmetto Ridge was just so loaded, and they got the win. And they will, Vic will openly say, "Hey, they deserve it, but we want it now, and we feel it's ours." And South Dade is loaded this year. I think out of all of my state team predictions heading into the year, they are my biggest favorite in my mind. Just up and down the lineup. I mean, just counting off the top of my head, I have 9 guys ranked in the top 3. They got a couple transfers from South Ridge over. They've got a tremendous freshman class coming in, and probably when it's all said and done, maybe the best wrestler in Florida high school history, the most dominant, in Sawyer Bartelt, just a junior, and he's just dominant, and they're hungry, believe it or not. They don't have to make things up at South Dade,
right?
Because every team always wants to be better, but this is a team that lost in the state duels, which is probably the more noticeable thing. But this is also a team that won the state IBT title Saturday morning. On the back end, and it was a tremendous win, and I think Vic would tell you maybe one of the more satisfying ones, because on Friday night this team was down and out. I had people writing me like, they don't have a chance, right? And I was like, well, I did the math, they kind of do, but everybody thought they were done because they had just an awful semifinal round, and they came out on Saturday and they just kept winning on the back end. And I was looking at the points they needed, and they just kept getting them. They kept getting the wins, and they ended up with, I don't have it in front of me, but at least coming back, you have 2 third-place finishers. You've got a 5th-place finisher, and they're a 4th-place finisher. That's how they won the state title. So for them, even, there's some unfinished business there, because while they were glad to win, and it certainly was one of the more explosive celebrations that I've seen between Vic and Duck, when they finally got the title on Saturday night, which, that's usually not when it gets settled. Right. They want to come up and be better this year. And I think they are better this year. And they're deeper, and they're more experienced, and they've got so much coming back. And as corny as it sounded, they have unfinished business in both that they want to take care of this year.
So your top 10 teams in IBT are number 10, Northport, number 9, Steinbrenner, number 8, Harmony, number 7, Haggerty, 6 is Doral Academy, 5 is Cypress Bay, 4 is Palmetto Ridge, 3 is Southwest Miami, number 2 is Kissimmee Osceola, and your number 1 team is South Dade. And we're going to end on this question.
Oh boy.
Are they more vulnerable, South Dade, in IBT or in duels?
I would say duels, only because you could get some bad luck, and it's early, duels is competed early in the season. If you get a couple guys out that are injured, we saw a couple years ago they lost to Southwest Miami in a duel. They did not lose to them in the series, but you have to be ready early on in the state duels, and if they're healthy and on point, I don't think they deal with it. But having such a tough opponent at every level, with Southwest Miami being in your district and then being your region final or region semifinal on the Thursday. I could see maybe a little bit of nervousness there, making sure guys are healthy. But I honestly, I look at this team, and no disrespect to any other team, I don't see many holes. And if guys make weight and they stay healthy and do what they're supposed to do, I think the sky is the limit for this team this year. And they won it. And yeah, you know, we laugh, but they're hungry, and they never get satisfied with whatever they win. And this year they feel like they need to win both by even more and get revenge on the other.
Right. And show that they are that level. They are the standard bearers in 3A. They are the standard bearers in the state of Florida, that they are the team. Yep. I agree with you. It's
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, right. No doubt. So Brant, I really appreciate you taking the time, man. Yes. We've had a great conversation about 3A. If anybody has not checked out 2A, 1A, and girls, be sure you do so, because we get into as much depth and talking about those as well. And just like I said with some of the others, I hope we can kind of get back together maybe after the knockout and maybe just do a quick breakdown of, has this changed a little bit? Because we will be right on the cusp of duels getting started and going down that path right after the knockout. So
yep, absolutely.
All right, man. I appreciate it. You finish up those previews.
Yeah, I gotta get back to work on finishing up those caps. Capsules are actually done. I gotta finish some of the other writing and promotion and such.
And have a great Thanksgiving, and then get some sleep, you know, before we all
March. March is sleeping week. We go up to the mountains and we sleep. I sleep.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks so much.
See ya.